everybody out there, you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan. You're in my corner, and I have a returning guest to the corner, and it's someone who's here every year.
Every year, really.
Well, we try and invite you every year at the
I,
beginning of
I
the
I'm
year.
pretty sure I missed last year. Did I miss last year?
Did we miss last year? I'd
I
have to
don't
look it up on
remember.
the website.
But yeah, I'm Martin Billamy, also known as LittleKuriboh, the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged and Naruto, the abridged comedy fandom spoof series show, and various things out there on the internet.
And you're very British.
Very British, and I have officially ruined the 91.8 the fandom.
No, that's okay. We don't
Sorry,
have
I
that many.
I,
We
I
don't
had
have
to
that
do
many fans anyway. It's fine. It's not a big
it.
deal. I
It was
actually,
easy.
yeah, you just had to show up, and then
That's
poof.
right.
That's fine. We're good with it. I think we can salvage the wreckage, and we might bill you for damages, but I think everything will be fine.
I'm sure that I'll be hearing from your lawyers.
If only we had any. But you've actually gotten to do a lot of voiceover stuff in the time that we haven't talked, which has been really nice to see you expand from abridging.
Yeah, I was very surprised. I mean, in a good way, that I was able to be actually cast in actual, gigs. Like I usually, my usual regiment of supposed voice acting is to walk into a closet and record some stuff that I've written or that a friend of mine has written, and then walk out and see it on the internet the next day. But currently, my typical voice acting role is to audition for something legit, which is weird, and then hear back about 5 months later, and then be told I can't tell anybody about it for another year. So, so it's a very different process altogether. But so far, the stuff I can talk about is that I'm in the K-On! Movie. I don't know if I talked about that on 91.8 The Fan yet,
I
but
don't think
it's
we got a chance to.
no, but it's been a while since I recorded for that. But that's out on Blu-ray. I have a copy. I haven't watched it yet. I'm too embarrassed. Uh, I'm pretty much every British character in the K-On! Movie. Like I think I play 6 or 7 people, and thus far nobody has been able to pinpoint every single character that I voiced. I kind of want to do some sort of contest where people can like try and figure it out, like where's Waldo or something, like where's Karibo. I don't know, but yeah, that was a lot of fun, and I'm in. I don't know what format it's coming out on, but there's a visual novel slash puzzle game coming out called Icebound, where I play the main character, and which is weird for me because I'm not. I mean, I play the main characters in all my stuff, but I never considered myself a main character guy. I always sort of considered myself like the sidekick or the comic relief at best. But to be thrust into the pivotal role of the attractive protagonist is very odd for me. I recorded for a game that's out called Ghost Control Incorporated, where I basically play the Ghostbusters, only if they were British. So you basically walk around London. It's kind of like XCOM for the PC or consoles, I guess it's on now, where you have a team of people and you just go around London trying to fight ghosts and cause as little damage as possible. And it's a cute little game.
Is there
What
a
else?
Stay Puft Marshmallow? Because that would make it your claim to fame.
Oh my gosh, if I get slimed in that game, I could be like the British Bill Murray. I'd be very happy about that. I used to actually be compared to Bill Murray when I was like in my late teens. People said I looked kind of like him, but I don't see it myself. That now I have the beard, it's totally not a thing. But although I guess he's kind of grown a beard recently. I don't know. I'll have to see when I get older if I turn into British Bill Murray. What else have I recorded for? There's a lot of stuff that I can't talk about.
I know there
Uh,
was Heroes of New Earth as well.
that's right. Yeah, I was in Heroes of New Earth. I played the first character I got was I think it was called Chip because it was the Chippendales sort of. It was two strippers, very sexy characters, and I kind of got a little tipsy before I auditioned for it to sort of loosen myself up so I could be this ridiculous character. And then I just recorded some really goofy dialogue and did a sort of more American Yami Yugi voice, and I got the role with alongside Antfish from Team Four Star. We are the Chippendales in that game, and also I got the role of the Snot Keeper, and I'm not sure. I think they were doing a theme pack of people that you can control. I don't know what heroes, I guess, that were based on Journey to the West, and I think mine was supposed to be their representation of Master Roshi. I think that's what it was because that's the voice I did. I remember that much. I sort of did my really bad attempt at Master Roshi, and it got through. And I'm a guy who flings snot at people, which is, I always dreamed of doing that. I always wanted to do that when I grew up. What else have I done? I've done a lot of narration, and I've done a lot of voiceover. I've done some commercials and stuff that nobody would be interested in hearing about. But I'm doing a lot more regular, actual professional voiceover work, and I've actually been able to pay rent for several months with just voiceover work, which is really, really bloody weird for me. Like just to be able to say that I this is something that I started as like a hobby to say maybe I'll make one or two people chuckle, and now I'm like I can actually do this for the rest of my life, hopefully.
Right, because you don't make any money off abridged in terms of like video ads or anything.
Right, right. That would be a big no-no.
Yeah, exactly. But there's t-shirt sales and then voiceover stuff, and the voiceover stuff can always lead to who knows what, all things considered.
You'd be surprised. I have like things coming up that like I've been auditioning for things that if I knew that I would even be anywhere near, I would freak out. Like if it was like 2 or 3 years ago, I've been really blessed to be working with the people that I mean, I've sat next to in the booth people who I watched on like old VHS tapes of anime shows that I used to rewatch when I was like 12. So it's been really an insane. Like I'm basically living the dream that 12-year-old Martin had and in the interim, I've become a very different person. But I'm enjoying it for very different reasons. Like I'm enjoying it because I actually feel like I'm doing something and create and helping to create something, and I feel like I'm improving myself as an actor. And but 12-year-old mine is still like, oh my God, that's so and so from so and so. She's awesome. It's pretty crazy.
Well, I have to ask because not a lot of abridgers, make the leap to voiceover. So, what did abridging help you learn to prepare you for voiceover?
I think, honestly, and this is something that directors have commented on when I've gone in to record for them. The main thing that abridging has helped with voiceover for me is being comfortable in front of the microphone because a lot of people, especially screen actors, will get in front of that microphone and just sort of feel very uncomfortable and die a little bit inside. Like I don't want to name names, but me and my wife, we kind of agree that Liam Neeson is a fantastic film actor, but when you sit him in front of a microphone in a booth, he kind of clams up a little bit. He doesn't really feel as confident, and you can kind of tell. Like in Fallout 3, if you've ever played Fallout 3, which is one of my favorite games, he he's a great actor, like I said, but he's very one note. He's very sort of blah, and it's like, really, you hired Liam Neeson to give this sort of cardboard performance? That's a shame. That's a real shame. And I feel like doing a bridging, even if it didn't make me a better actor per se, because I often feel like I'm not really acting when I'm recording for Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged. I feel like I'm just sort of telling jokes in a silly voice. I feel like it sort of got me used to the environment of being a quote unquote voice actor, to the point that when it was time to actually get in the booth and record for somebody, I I didn't, what do you call it? I didn't freeze. I didn't have stage fright or booth fright. I don't know what you would call it. But I do feel like it prepared me in that sense. Uh, I feel like it almost hindered me more though, because I'm so used to the comedy aspect of it that it's hard for me to portray a character that's meant to be serious. Fortunately, a lot of the roles that I played have been goofy, cartoony, like, silly characters, but there are times when it comes to audition for or even play characters that are meant to be taken seriously, and it's been really hard for me to pull it back because I'm so used to being very out there and project all the time. It's hard for me to stop being quite so Nylock with it.
Well, I do think another difficulty would be the fact that when you're at home, you can record a line as many times as you want, but you can't do that in a booth.
Absolutely, and the pressure's on most of the time. They have to pay, obviously, for every hour that you're in there most of the time. And if you don't get the lines done within a certain amount of time, they're going to have to keep paying you, and that's money that they're spending on you getting it wrong, basically. If you're not ready for it. And fortunately, I've been told that I'm good at actually doing it, within the time, and I usually finish considerably earlier, and I always have to wonder if it just means that I'm, that I'm doing such a bad job that they just want me to get me out of there. But I don't know. I feel like abridging has at least prepared me emotionally for the role of being a voice actor in the booth.
Definitely. And I like how you mentioned, with screen actors, how when they get in front of the mic, they might not be able to give the same performance. And, I'm one of those people that talks with my hands. Like I throw my
Mm.
hands everywhere and sometimes I whack my mic and things like that. So
Yeah,
that,
I actually I sat next to a guy when I was recording something like a month ago, and every time he had like a line, and he was a very exuberant character, he would flail and point, and on one hand that's helping him, but on the other hand, it is going to make things difficult as far as being a voice actor goes because it can feel very restricting and almost like if you are flailing you are going to whack the microphone or you're going to like turn your head too far away from the mic at some point, so if you're physical with it it can cause problems.
yeah, definitely. Like I feel anytime I've been in the booth, I have to, say something in my head mentally to get into the spirit of what I'm doing because I feel like I have to be so stationary.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So obviously you are still getting work and there are things that you can't talk about, which is always a good sign. I'm not going to try and, force the NDA ninjas to come after you, but that's congratulations. I'm very happy for you.
Thank you. And it's because of you guys and because of the fans that have always supported me that I've even felt remotely confident enough to try it. So I really do have to give it back to you guys. I have to say thank you because without all of you, I wouldn't be even like remotely near where I am today. I was when I started Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged, I was a very quiet, remote, insular person, and doing abridging and meeting the people involved and befriending everybody and talking to people and actually coming out of my shell is the thing that got me to where I am, and I truly feel that I would be a very different, very very miserable person without all of you guys. So I have to say thank you for that.
Oh, well, everybody just did, the heart melt thing in real life. So thank you very much for that.
I
But
ruined your heart fandoms.
oh no, why you gotta do that? Next you'll ruin the shipping. All the
Uh,
shipping fandoms will be ruined next.
That would take a while.
I don't know. I mean, I think you have the power.
If anybody has the power, it's me.
Or the babe.
You
Who knows?
know, I have to think that ruining the shipping fandom would actually be a good thing because 9 times out of 10, the things that fans get angry at each other for is the shipping. I feel so. I almost feel like I'd be like declaring peace amongst the fandoms if I got rid of shipping.
Well, I feel like it depends on what social media website you were on. Because if you were on Tumblr, I think that would be fine. But if you were on Twitter, I think it would make Twitter less interesting, for example.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that. Twitter is the cool older brother of Tumblr.
Tumblr is kind of going through its growth spurts right now and having a little difficulty going from teenager to adult. But hey, one day, one day.
I do like Tumblr though. I like tracking all the porn tags on there, so I can't complain too much. I
Oh,
I
okay.
I can't ruin the porn fandom just yet.
I actually have. I doubt you follow me, but
I
I
should.
actually.
What's your Tumblr name?
It's Kana Network,
Okay.
Kananet work. Um,
Okay.
but for the listeners out there, the staff always gets on my case because sometimes I do post inappropriate pictures, and most of the time they're usually yaoi, and they're clearly marked. They are clearly labeled not safe for work. This is yaoi, But every time somebody has to complain about it, I'm like, use Tumblr Savior. Just don't blame me. I tagged it. I tag everything.
I wouldn't complain.
Well, there you go. But for the listeners out there who want to track you on Tumblr, what is your Tumblr name?
My Tumblr is martininamerica.tumblr.com, which was I probably would have gone with something more obvious that related to LittleKuriboh, but I was trying to be subtle about it, which was my first mistake because trying to be subtle on Tumblr is like trying to survive uh, something. I don't know. I opened up a metaphor and I couldn't get it out. Sorry. It's a bad idea trying to be subtle on Tumblr, but yeah, Martin in America, all one word, .tumblr.com.
And what about your Twitter and your Facebook for the fans out there?
Twitter is Yu-Gi-Oh! TAS, Yugiohtas. I think I got that right. And Facebook, you can just follow me at Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged Series official.
So if you're not following Martin yet, we're going to go to a short break so you can. So keep it tuned to 91.8 The Fan, where we play everything you want and nothing you don't. Hey, everybody out there, you're still tuned to 91.8 The Fan, and my special guest is still here, alive and breathing.
I am just about. Did you guys play every fight during the commercial break?
No, we didn't.
This is a huge mistake that we need to rectify in the next commercial break.
I will have to put it at the here. I'm gonna type it right now. You're gonna hear me
Yes.
type it.
Okay, good. Because otherwise, I might have to re-ruin the 91.8 the fandom because I might have to rebuild it during the course of the interview and then destroy it again as I leave.
We
If you
played
don't.
your music in Brentalfloss.
It's not quite the same. It doesn't quite have the same dissonance as every fight. I mean, I doubt people were dancing quite as much as they would have been if every fight was on.
I'm just gonna let you guys know that every fight is Martin's fault. I never play the song
That
during my
sounds like
shift.
you're saying you're blaming me for every single fight that ever happened in the world. That's
Well,
true though. Every fight is my
oh,
fault.
okay. Well, no, because like I do, and I don't take requests on my show. I do like an IRC game at 3 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time,
Okay.
and one of the rules of the game is you can't get every fight onto the playlist. So
So,
I will
what?
break that rule for you.
I supersede the rule.
Yes,
Excellent.
only you.
It's good to know.
Or if you come up to us to a convention, because you have done that before.
What conventions are you guys going to anyway, so that I can plan ahead?
The only convention that I can think of off the top of my head right now, I know someone is going to Comic Con, but I know, or Comic Con, but I know that we're not broadcasting this year.
Oh,
The next one that we're broadcasting at that I know for sure is SabaCon here in Las Vegas. It's at the
okay.
end of April.
April. Okay. I don't know if I'll be able to make that, but play every fight at Sabacon.
Okay, Martin, I will. I
Excellent.
will when we're packing up.
It'll
I'm
be the
kidding.
closing down song. It'll be the thing. It'll be the death knell of the convention.
That's perfect. Yes, that's perfect. I'll play it after Gundam Style.
There you
Oh,
go.
yeah. So, what conventions are you going to this year?
Oh my gosh! You know what? The great thing about the internet is I can just Google it, and I don't even have to think. I love that. I wish all interviews had Google. Let me see. Martin Billany, anime conventions. I know that next week I'm going to a convention called AlmaCon in Michigan, which I went to last year and had a lot of fun. It was one of the many instances where I had massive plane problems coming back, but I actually ended up enjoying it a lot because the guys at Team Kondak, who they are a cosplay group who do Doctor Who cosplay and panels related to it, they came and rescued me and they drove me to Olive Garden, and then we went to a mall, and we all hung out and watched bad movies together. So it was one of the times where I had a terrible flight experience, but it was actually not so bad because I actually had company. But yeah, that's next week. That's February 7th to the 9th in Alma, Michigan. There's all kinds of cool people go to that. Yuri Lowenthal, Tara Platt, Stephanie Shea, all kinds of people. Comic-Con, as you mentioned, I will be there in Birmingham, Alabama from February the 14th to the 16th, and that has the Cowboy Bebop cast reunion and Sailor Moon people and all kinds of craziness. And there's going to be a wedding or something happening there. I can't remember specifically what's happening, but
Yes, it's
so,
the royal wedding between the con chair and his lovely fiance.
that's right. That's right. And he proposed at Comic Con like a year or two ago, and it was beautiful. It was fantastic. I can't wait to see that. EvilCon is a convention that I'm going to in Evansville, Indiana, from March 28th to the 30th, and I'm super excited about that because some good friends of mine are going. Melinda Chan and Kyle, her husband. They are an incredible cosplay group. I think they're called like Kingdom. They have a fancy name for their cosplay group, and they're brilliant people, and they blow my mind every time I see their costumes. They're really incredible, and that's a small convention, but I like the small ones because you get to meet everybody, and that's EvilCon spelled Eville. Then I'm at Anime St. Louis, April the 11th to the 13th in Collinsville, Illinois, which I was invited to a few times before, I think, and I just couldn't make it. So I'm actually going to be able to make it out there this time. And I'll just list a few more because I have so many. Acon in 2014 from June the 6th to the 8th in Dallas, Texas, which is always an incredible show. Kineticon from July 10th to the 13th. in Hartford, Connecticut, which I've always wanted to go to. I've been trying to get to it for the last 4 years. I've heard nothing but great things about it, and I'm really excited to be there. And I'm going to look it up because I can't remember the dates offhand, but I'm going to MTAC, which is in Middle Tennessee, and it's from April the 18th to the 20th of this year. And the reason I'm excited for that one is because of the guest list, and it's going to be the first time I'm ever meeting in person Dan Green, the voice of Yugi and Yami from Yu-Gi-Oh! So basically the voice of Yu-Gi-Oh! So that's going to be really bloody exciting for me, and it should be exciting for you because Dan Green, this is his first ever Western anime convention. He's done other conventions in the West, but this is his first anime specific one. So it's a huge opportunity to meet the guy who basically defined the show for me, and I'm sure a lot of people. Also, Eric Stewart, the voice of Seto Kaiba, will be there, and Vic Mignogna and my wife and me, I'll be there too.
Well, that sounds like a full plate already, and you're not even like halfway through the year, I believe.
Yeah, that's about half of it, yeah.
Well, now you mentioned the Doctor Who fandom. Have you ruined that one yet?
No, I think it's doing a perfectly good job of that itself, honestly. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with the fandom. I do know well, every time I glimpse into that fandom, people seem to be complaining about the quality of the show and how it's going downhill. And I don't know. I've not really seen it recently, but I think that the longest running sci-fi show of all time will probably be able to survive a dry spout of the show's writing. I think it'll be okay, but the fandom doesn't seem too happy right now.
Man, I tried to get into that show. Like, I attempted. Somebody showed me, I think it's the first, like, Weeping Angels episode, and they were like, this is super scary. And I'm really into horror, and I was like, that wasn't that scary. I was kind of,
What's
you
your
know, I,
favorite? What's your favorite horror movie?
oh gosh, why you gotta ask me such a, well, I'm trying to think if we're gonna go modern or we're gonna go past, because it's really difficult. Modern, I really like the first Saw. And before anyone gets on my case, I really like how intelligent the first Saw is because if you
Okay.
didn't see the twist, it was really awesome. As for an older horror movie, I think one of my favorites are definitely the very first Carrie movie.
Oh hell yeah, Brian De Palma. He's a great director. I love Carrie, and I liked Saw okay. My all-time favorite is going to be like the classics, like well, it's not I say classic, but it came out in the last 50 years. But like George Romero's Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead.
Mm.
I think his
Yeah.
stuff is amazing. But yeah, I'm big into horror, and I've never really been that scared by Doctor Who. But having said that, I do have vivid memories of hiding behind the couch when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and it was on TV, and it was like John Pertwee fighting like creatures from the sea and everything. I remember having nightmares about that show. It's definitely effective if you've not really watched much horror, but like the older you get, I think it's harder to take Doctor Who seriously, honestly. I'm not saying that it's bad. I think it's silly and it's fun. I don't think I could ever really be scared by that show.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I feel like, in a sense, because I grew up on Stephen King, and I feel like he kind of desensitized me
Hmm.
to being afraid because the way he approaches horror is so realistic. Like, I feel like he always, gives something a personality, even if it's like a really off-wall kind of, comment that you don't even need to know about. Like, some random character that's there for like one moment, and they tell something about his family. And I feel like he made things so real that nothing can kind of get past him.
The best, I honestly think the best thing Stephen King's ever written, aside from the Dark Tower series, is The Stand, because it feels, at least for the first half of the book, it feels like something that could happen at any moment, at
Hmm.
any time, and be as devastating as it is. And it's one of those things where you wouldn't know, and there's a chapter of that book where he's just describing random people throughout the world in the situations that they're in dying of the super flu, and it's it's stuck with me. It's one of those things where these are just random characters and it's their story, and it's like a couple of paragraphs, and it's just them dying in the situation that they're in. And I've been very affected by that my entire life ever since reading it when I was like 15. And it he plays on your paranoia. He does a good job of that, certainly.
Definitely. I believe he tried to do the same thing with the book The Cell, which is nowhere
Yeah.
near as long as The Stand. And the beginning of The Cell is great, but then you get into like psychic zombies near the end, and it's a little bit confusing.
He said he was trying to basically do The Stand again. I remember reading an interview before it came out where he said that people keep asking him when are you going to write another book like The Stand, and so this was his answer to that. And yeah, it's not nearly as good as The Stand, unfortunately.
I do
But
think the concept is scary with the cell phones and whatnot, playing on
totally,
CPUs every.
yeah. I was that was a scary just reading about the idea, but the book itself doesn't really do a great job of that.
Well, I'm glad to know that you're a horror fan, and I love how we segued into that.
Yeah, I could talk about horror all day. Every Halloween, me and Mariana, we sit down and we have a month-long horror fest where we watch a different horror film every day. And I really want to do like a big streak where we watch just all of the Leprechaun movies this time because we haven't watched any
Some
of the
of them are
Leprechaun movies.
so tongue in cheek, though.
Absolutely, I'm okay with that. I think it kind of becomes like it becomes very self-aware and almost like a comic book movie at a certain point. But I've never really watched them all from beginning to end. Like as a what is it now? If there's five movies, six, I can't remember. The the trilogy and is there a word for six movie trilogy like sextology? I don't
I
know.
have no idea.
I need to research that. But yeah, I'd love to watch all the Leprechaun movies. And I just bought Mariana for Christmas Silent Night, Deadly Night, which is I bought her the first one and the second one, which I believe is where the garbage day quote comes from. So I'm looking forward to seeing that actualized this Halloween.
Well, since we're on the topic, do you ever watch international horror films? Because I
Yeah,
know. Okay, cool. Because I really like comparing how that genre is approached through different countries. Like,
totally, totally.
for example, Asian horror films are on this weird, isolated level that you don't ever find in Western films, and I really love like contrasting and comparing those two.
It's fascinating in a way because especially like I think Silent Hill is a very good example of the game, I mean,
Hmm.
uh, of the fact that the Asian idea of horror is sort of it's rooted specifically in their culture because it's about like because spirits and is like a thing for them. It's almost like oh, there's bad spirits in this building. That's a thing. They just believe that, and like The Grudge is another example of that. It's just part of like everyday life, and those movies sort of capitalize on that fear of just like a spirit that is lingering, like either guilt or some emotion that has just stayed around like and is embodied by this spirit and it's like it's something that exists there, and if we tried to translate it over here, like we had the Grudge movies, the remakes, where I don't think it worked nearly as well because they were basically trying to embody a very Asian aspect of horror, but set it over here with American people, and well, I guess they didn't set it over here. She was moving over there or whatever, but they it just doesn't work nearly as well because we don't have that same mindset, and I feel like Silent Hill was the same when they made the movie of that. I felt like they did a great job of nailing the atmosphere of the series, but I feel like they kind of missed the point because they made it more about I don't know they made it more about this fight with God and the cult and everything, and it brought in way too much extraneous stuff where it's like it has to be more complicated than this basic idea of of emotion and I don't know I feel like I'm rambling. Sorry.
Well, no, you're fine. To be fair, I mean, Silent Hill's basic story is supposed to be about the cult, and I liked the first movie, but my cousin recently showed me the latest one, and I just
Oh,
couldn't get into it. Like it
oh
was
my God, it's
there was
so
so
bad.
much wrong. I had
I
so
mean,
many issues.
the really interesting thing about Silent Hill, the second movie, is that from a what do you call it? From a superficial visual standpoint, you could go through that movie basically beat by beat and be like, yeah, this is Silent Hill 3 told in the form of a movie because she goes essentially through the same situation except that her dad is still alive. And you see Robbie the rabbit, and she goes to the carnival and everything. And there's certain things that just happen where they are supposed to happen. And she goes into that place and gets the what do you call it, the sigil or whatever. And that all happens in essentially the same order, but everything else is so wrong. Like Vincent and just like it's all jump scares, and it's just a
And then the
complete.
mirror thing with the mom, like that
Oh,
totally confused me.
they
I
didn't
couldn't
know
even grasp
where
it.
they were going because, in a way, they were trying to appease the fans of the games and the fans of the first movie but they created so many continuity problems because they obviously had to bring Heather back, but the ending of the first movie made that impossible. And then in order to fix that, they had the mirror thing, but then Rose was acting completely out of character, and it just raised more questions. And oh, it was such a mess. It was a they didn't know. They went in completely blind with that movie, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend watching it. But for the fans out there who are asking me in our live chat, obviously you're still working on Yu-Gi-Oh! Bridge. Do you have any episodes coming down the pipeline?
Yes, I should be able to release the new episode in a week or so. I've finished recording for it. I finished writing it. I'm editing it as we speak. I've been editing it the past week or two. It's a long one. I feel really bad about how long it is because it's like 12 or 13 minutes. I'm kind of justifying it in my head because first of all, I think it's funny, and I feel like if I cut anything out of it, it would make it less funny, which I really want to avoid doing. And second of all, it's the final duel of the season. It's Yami Marek versus Yugi, which is essentially what everything's been leading to for the past two seasons. So I don't want to skimp on it. And I do feel like it's a solid episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged. I feel like I've had a string of really good episodes, and whenever I do that in my head, I'm always like, you know what? If I have a string of good episodes, I can afford to release a subpar episode if I can't quite figure it out, if I can't make it happen, like despite my best efforts. But I feel like I've actually made a good episode this time, so I hope people are looking forward to it. I know it's been a while since the last one, but I put my all into it, and it's the episode that I'm happy to release, and it's gonna be good, and hopefully you won't have to wait too long for the one after that either.
Well, that makes me really excited, and I'm sure it makes the fans excited. For people who don't know, which should be none of you, where can they catch the new episode?
If you want to watch the new episodes, they'll be available at yugiobridge.com. If failing that, although I don't know why they wouldn't be there, failing that, you can check my YouTube channel, which hopefully will be online, which is Card Games FTW. And also, after I finish this episode, I'm probably going to make a new Season Zero abridged. And the Season Zero abridged, I kind of do like one a year. And they always go over really well. I'm always very surprised by how much people care about the silly side videos. But I have a few ideas for which Season Zero abridged episode I'm doing because I kind of skip around with that one because there's no real continuity. But I have a really specific idea for what I want to do, and hopefully it won't take me too long to write because those episodes tend to be much shorter, like 5 or 6 minutes.
I think it's because they're so crazy that people
They
like
are
them so much.
insane. Yeah, I like flipping things on their head, like Kaiba being a nice guy, and Yami Yugi is basically an insane, malevolent spirit, and I kind of play him as a crazy game show host in that show. So I feel like it's almost like a breath of fresh air from the regular Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged.
Well, now, since we're nearing the end of this interview, is there anything else you want to tell the listeners out there? Any words of wisdom, dating advice, predictions for the end of the world?
Oh gosh. Well, I think all three of those will go hand in hand because if I gave words of wisdom as to how to go on a date, I'll probably end up causing the end of the world. Uh,
Or the
but
end of a fandom?
oh yeah, at the very least, somebody's fandom, which for some people would be the end of the world. But if I was going to leave you with anything, I talked about it on Twitter. Actually, no, there's something I do want to talk about that's very specific happening right now. There is a fund a raiser happening for a young boy who was bullied very severely to the point of trying to kill himself. And he's an 11-year-old boy, and he's in hospital. He's called, I believe, Michael. I don't know how to pronounce his second name, Morones. And there's a GoFundMe. If you look online on Twitter, I believe Eiley Monty, she's currently putting the fundraiser up. They've reached almost $20,000 with it to help him recover, and I believe very passionately in helping anybody who has been in that situation, and given that the community has come together and is trying to help this one boy, I think it's a great symbol of hope for people who are in a similar situation. That despite what a small number of people will say or do to you, there are going to be an infinitely larger number of people willing to support you for what you do and what you believe in. So if there's any way to put a link to that fundraiser, I don't have the link offhand on the interview page. That would be great. Um,
Chris can
Aside,
definitely do that, and he'll probably post it in the IRC as well. And I believe that was your birthday wish for from people.
that's right. If it is my birthday coming up, I guess I should mention that. But if you guys want to do anything for me or for the boy Michael, I very much suggest that donating to or spreading the word about that fundraiser would be a huge help for him and for anybody else who has suffered through bullying. And as for words of wisdom, I talked about it on Twitter the other day, and I was really surprised by the response it got. I got a lot of positive, like retweets and replies, but I've encountered a lot of people recently that come to me and they say, I want to make videos because I can't wait to be invited to conventions and be a guest and, have people, ask for my autograph and just be really popular and get all the views and all that stuff. And I don't know how to respond to that. It feels to me like it feels very disingenuous because it seems like if you want to do something, you shouldn't be looking toward the ultimate goal of being popular because at the end of the day, I think very few people who are popular did what they do because they wanted that. I think very few people who are celebrated to the extent of like say I don't know Team Four Star or me or anybody in that position or like even the movie stars. I don't think they do what they do because they want to be celebrities. I think they do what they do because they're passionate about it and they care about it and they want to do it and grow as a person while doing it and become better at doing it so that they can either entertain people or help people or whatever. And I don't think anybody ever stood up and said, I'm going to do this so I'll be famous, uh, and got that, So I want to just say that if you're passionate about something and you want to do it for the rest of your life, that is all the reason you need. You do not need anything else. And if you go out and you do that, no matter how menial it may seem, or no matter how underappreciated you may be, you are accomplishing something with your life, regardless of how many people even notice. Like at the end of the day, you're contributing something to the world by doing something that you love. So just keep that in mind and don't be disheartened if nobody ever, comes up to you and says congratulations or thank you or anything like that because really you're doing it for yourself and if it's an accomplishment that you're proud of, that's all that you need. So don't think too much about the bigger picture all the time. I
And
don't know if I feel like I said it much more concisely on Twitter, but I ultimately what I'm saying is try not to do something just for the sake of being popular. Try to do something for the sake of doing it,
no, I totally agree with you. That's why I still do 91.8 The Fan. So,
And you guys
I,
do such a great job. You really do.
aw, thank you. But for that fund, it is GoFundMe.com and the name, and then it's slash MICHAELMORONES fund. So, in case anybody who's listening couldn't get the URL from Twitter or whatnot or our live chat, there's the URL.
Well, thank you.
No problem. And thank you very much for joining us for the fourth, fifth time.
I think it's the fourth. I think because it was 2011 that I first was it? I don't know.
2010, January 3rd,
2010, Lee.
2010.
10,
Yes.
11, 12, 13. This is the fifth time.
That's
Oh my goodness.
insane. I know.
It's the 5-year anniversary.
Whee! But no,
That's
thank
awesome.
you so much for joining us again. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
And coming up next is Every Fight, because, Martin likes to ruin our fandom. So
That's right.
enjoy our Plug Your Ears and come back in 3 minutes and 42 seconds.